Hello, it's Rachel here from Healthy English. Now, have you ever been confused about how to address people properly in emails and messages? This can be really tricky when English is your second language. Now, the reason that I've made this video is because I've worked with international doctors and international health professionals that have come to the UK for many years now. And I've received a lot of messages and a lot of emails from people whose English is not their first language. Now, often I'm addressed in ways that just wouldn't be used in the UK. I want to make it clear what is the most appropriate way to address somebody, because unfortunately, if we address people in the wrong way, it can unintentionally create a barrier to relationships because people will misinterpret your intentions, particularly if you address them in certain ways. So I'm going to start with how we address someone at the beginning of a message. Now, when you're writing a message to somebody, so it could be an email, a text message, a WhatsApp message, it could be a friend or a colleague or even somebody you've never met before. The best thing to do is be guided by how they've signed off with their name. So if you've already received an email from them or you've already received a message from them, have a look. How have they signed off? And copy exactly what they've done. Most people will just sign off with their first name, otherwise called their forename or Christian name. So for me, it would be Rachel. And if they have done that, that gives you permission to address them with their first name too. So you'd simply start the message with, "Hi, Rachel. I'm just messaging to say," or "Hi, Rachel, thanks for your message," etc., etc. So this is the most common way that you would address somebody in an email or message, simply hi and then their first name. If, however, you have received a previous message and they've signed off with Mr. or Mrs. or Ms. or Doctor, so one of these titles, followed by their last name, otherwise called their surname, then simply copy how they have addressed themselves. So you would start your message with exactly the same thing, "Hi, Dr. So-and-so," or "Hi, Mrs. Dexter." You would never use, however, a title with a first name. So that's the one thing just to remember. You would never ever add a title when you're using somebody's first name. So you would never say, "Hello, Miss Rachel," or "Hello, Mrs. Rachel." We only ever use the first name on its own. The titles always go with the last name. So that's the best method to use when you're responding to a message. Just very simply copy the way that they've used to sign off. Now you might ask, well, what if you haven't already received a message from them? So if you are familiar with that person or the message is an informal message, it's very common and acceptable to use hi with their first name in most circumstances. You can change hi to hello to make it a little less informal. But if you're writing a formal message or you're contacting a senior colleague, for example, and you are not sure, use their title and surname. So for me, Mrs. Dexter. "Dear Mrs. Dexter," or "Hi, Mrs. Dexter." Then when they reply, you can see how they sign off, and then you just follow their lead in the next message. I hope that's helpful when it comes to how you address somebody. But you might be asking, what about the word dear? When would we use dear instead of hi or hello? Now, this can be appropriate for letters and more formal emails. For example, if you're writing a referral or a complaint, or you're inquiring about a job, in these more formal circumstances, then we use dear instead of hi. So, "Dear Mrs. Dexter," or "Dear Rachel." When used in other contexts, however, dear can make people feel very, very uncomfortable. I've had many messages that say things like, "Hello, dear Rachel," or "Thank you, dear," or "How are you, my dear?" Now, people won't tell you, but in this kind of context, it's too intimate and it suggests a personal relationship. It's not a phrase that we would use with people we aren't very close with, and it's very likely to give the wrong impression. So only ever use dear followed by somebody's first or their title and their last name to address people at the beginning of more formal letters and emails. A few other common terms I frequently see are madam and ma'am. So I have had many messages sent to me that say things like hello ma'am or hello madam. The equivalent for male might be sir. Number one, never use ma'am unless you happen to be addressing the Queen of England, which has never happened to me and is likely never to happen to you. We just don't use ma'am in other contexts. Only ever use sir or madam if you are writing a formal letter or email and you do not know who is going to be receiving it. For example, if you are writing a complaint letter to a company and you don't have a specific name to address that letter to, you would commonly start the letter with Dear Sir/Madam. The only other context you would use sir is if you are a pupil at school and you call your male teacher sir, or if you're addressing somebody who has been knighted by the Queen, for example, the famous actor Sir Sean Connery, which again is rather unlikely to happen. So I hope that's made things a bit clearer for you in terms of what's appropriate and what's not appropriate when addressing people. These are the things that often people aren't told, but they can make a big difference when it comes to first impressions and relationships. I would love it if you want to add your own experiences and questions in the comments below. This is Rachel, passionate about encouraging, equipping, and empowering international doctors, nurses, and other health professionals to thrive in their UK careers.